You know, we spend so much time thinking about life, but what about what comes right after it ends? Today, we're going to trace the soul's incredible odyssey, a step-by-step journey from the very moment of death all the way to its final destination, according to Islamic tradition.
So let's start with a question that, honestly, applies to every single one of us. What actually happens the moment your soul leaves your body? The tradition tells us it's not some gentle fade to black. Oh no, it's a huge, profound event, and the experience is completely different depending on the kind of life you lived. And right away, the path splits in two. For a believer, the soul is said to just flow out, as smoothly and gently as a drop of water pouring from a jug. But for a sinner, it's described as being violently ripped out, like trying to pull a jagged barbed skewer out of wet wool. It catches and tears on absolutely everything. Two completely different beginnings to this journey.
Okay, so that brings us to the first major stage, the soul's exit. This is all about those final moments in this world, and it all starts with the arrival of the angel of death.
So imagine this. For a righteous person, angels appear with faces described as being as bright as the sun. But for a sinner, the angels that show up have dark, terrifying faces. Then, the angel of death himself sits down at the head of the person and speaks directly to their soul. To one, he says, "O good soul, come on out to forgiveness and pleasure." But to the other, "O foul soul, come out to anger and wrath." These first words are a direct preview of what's to come, and that separation of fates happens instantly.
So once the soul has left and the body is buried, the journey moves into a whole other dimension, an unseen, intermediate world called Barzakh. Now, this isn't just sleeping. Not at all. It's a vibrant, conscious existence inside the grave itself. Think of it as a waiting room, a preview where the consequences of your life really start to unfold before the final judgment even begins.
So, what happens in this unseen world? Well, it basically breaks down into three huge steps. First, there's a serious questioning. Then, based on how the soul answers, the grave itself physically changes around it. And finally, a window opens up, giving a direct sneak peek of the final destination. Two angels, known as Munkar and Nakir, show up and they ask three questions that every single soul has to answer. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is your prophet? And these aren't trivia questions. You can't just cram for this test. The only way you can answer is if your entire life was the answer. It's about conviction, not memory. And the results of that Q&A are immediate. And wow, are they different. For the believer who answers correctly, the grave expands into this beautiful garden, stretching out as far as the eye can see. A window opens and the sense of paradise drift in. But for the one who can't answer, the grave constricts so tight that it's said to crush the ribs, and a window opens to the unbearable heat of the hellfire. So after who knows how long in the grave, we're talking it could be eons, comes the third monumental stage, the Day of Judgment. This is it. The individual waiting period is over, and now all of humanity, every single person who ever lived, is brought back and gathered for the final, ultimate reckoning.
The scale of this day is just hard to even wrap your head around. It kicks off with the angel Israfil blowing a trumpet, and every soul is resurrected. Everyone is gathered together on one enormous plain, and the sun is brought down so close it's just a mile away. Then, the divine scales, the mizan, are set up to weigh every single deed, the good and the bad. And finally, you get your book, the complete record of your life, either in your right hand if you're successful, or your left if you're not.
And in the middle of all this cosmic chaos, you get these incredible stories. Picture this. A man is brought forward, and he is shown 99 gigantic scrolls, each one packed with his sins. Every single scroll is so long it stretches as far as he can see. He's looking at this, and he just knows he's doomed. There's no way out. But then, just when you think it's all over for him, this one tiny card is brought out. He's told that this single card is going to be weighed against all those mountains of sin. I mean, it seems completely hopeless, right? Like a single drop of water against an ocean of fire. So what's on this tiny card? It's the testimony of faith, La ilaha illallah, that there is no God worthy of worship except God. And the tradition says that when this is said with pure, deep sincerity, even just once in a person's life, its weight is immeasurable. They put it on the scales, and that one card outweighs all 99 scrolls of sin. It's just a powerful example of sincere belief and divine mercy. Okay, so you've faced the scales, you've gotten your book, but believe it or not, the journey is still not over. Not yet. Now we come to what might be the most terrifying stage of all, the bridge over hell. This is the final crossing, and every single soul has to try and make it.
This bridge, it's called the Sirat, and its description will just stop you in your tracks. It is stretched directly over the roaring flames of hell, and it is thinner than a hair and sharper than a sword. There is no detour, no other way to get to paradise. Everyone has to cross.
And how fast you cross? Well, that's where every good deed, every prayer, every bit of kindness you ever showed comes into play. It all turns into your forward momentum. Some people will shoot across like a flash of lightning, others like the wind or a fast horse. Many will just be walking, and some will be crawling on their hands and knees, slow and steady. But for others, their sins act like hooks, grabbing them and pulling them right off the bridge and into the fire below.
Now, for those who do make it across, we've arrived at our final section, and this part is all about two things: an absolutely overwhelming sense of mercy, and of course, the final destinations that await every soul.
To really get what happens next, you have to understand mercy on a scale that is just mind-blowing. The teachings say that all the mercy that has ever existed in this world, a mother's love, every act of forgiveness, all of it, that's only 1% of God's total mercy. The other 99% has been saved specifically for this day, the day of judgment.
And so after that final crossing, the journey ends in one of two places. There's Jannah, which is paradise, a place of just eternal peace and a joy you can't even imagine, where angels are waiting to greet you at the gates. And there's Jahannam, hell, which is described as a place of punishment, but also as a place of purification, where the overwhelming feeling is regret for those who didn't pass the trials.
But even then, even for those in the fire, the story of mercy isn't quite finished. It's taught that after some time, the very last person who had even an atom's weight of faith in their heart will eventually be pulled out of hell and brought into heaven. It's this final act that really drives home the idea that with divine mercy, hope is never, ever truly lost.
So when you think about this entire journey, from that first moment after death, all the way to the end, it really brings it all back to us, right here, right now. The record of our deeds, our own book of life, it's being written as we speak. So the final question really is for you. What will the final page say?